Welcome to 1337. Welcome to the future.
On February 26, 2026, retired Air Force Major General William Neal McCassland left his home in New Mexico and vanished. He didn't take his vehicle. He left his prescription glasses resting on a table right next to his wallet and his phone. When a high-ranking military official disappears without basic necessities, it draws immediate federal scrutiny. As investigators analyzed McCassland's final days, his case began to align with a broader, recurring pattern. Since 2023, roughly a dozen researchers and contractors tied to sensitive government programs have vanished or died under mysterious circumstances. Within the federal inquiry, this specific group is known as the 12. The concentration of these events has moved the situation beyond local police jurisdiction. It is now the subject of a coordinated investigation by the FBI and the House Oversight Committee, who are treating the cluster as a potential national security threat. The timeline explains the FBI's interest. It started in 2023 and 2024 with the deaths of NASA experts Michael David Hicks and Frank Mywald. In mid-2025, the frequency spiked sharply. Within weeks, 4 more vanished: Monica Reza, Melissa Cassius, Anthony Chavez, and Stephen Garcia. These individuals were connected to the country's most secure research hubs, including the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the Kansas City National Security Campus, and the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Their roles gave them access to bottleneck technologies, specialized fields where only a handful of people hold the technical keys. Monica Reza, for instance, was a director in materials science, co-inventing the nickel superalloys required for high-temperature rocket propulsion. These losses represent more than a missing staff count. They remove the specific human expertise required to develop and maintain next-generation defense and energy systems. Many of the cases share a primary operational signature that investigators call the walking out phenomenon. In several instances, personnel like Monica Reza and Stephen Garcia vanished during routine, low-risk activities, like hiking or walking out their front door. They left no physical trace, no signs of a struggle, and no trail for law enforcement to follow. While some deaths on the list were clear homicides, these clean disappearances are distinct. They suggest a level of professional neutralization that leaves the cases permanently stalled at the local level. This behavioral signature is not unique to the current U.S. investigation. It mirrors a security crisis impacting a different global power over a decade ago. The U.S. cases appear to be a replication of a vulnerability previously exploited in India, indicating a long-term strategy for targeting high-value scientific talent. Between 2009 and 2013, the Indian Department of Atomic Energy reported 11 unnatural deaths among its nuclear scientists and engineers. The 2009 case of Lokanathan Mahalingam provides a direct parallel to the American walkaways. A senior officer at the Kaiga Atomic Station, Mahalingam went for a walk on the high-security campus and never returned, leaving behind his phone and his wallet. The forensic anomalies are also entirely consistent. In the U.S., the family of DoD scientist Mark Haidt has contested an official accidental ruling, citing evidence of violence. Similarly, in India, families and colleagues questioned official rulings of suicide and the inexplicable lab fires that killed researchers like Umang Singh and Partha Pratim Bagh. The targets in both timelines held similar strategic value. Deceased Indian engineers working on the country's first nuclear-powered submarine matched the level of clearance held by the missing American aerospace and plasma specialists. Analyzing these timelines together reveals a clear pattern. Highly cleared personnel are being neutralized using the same methods across different decades and borders. This creates a knowledge vacuum. Scientific programs are not just databases, they are ecosystems of expertise. When a specialist is removed, the institutional memory required to solve complex engineering problems often goes with them. This exposes a gap in modern security. States spend billions to physically harden a reactor behind a concrete dome, while the specialized knowledge required to operate it resides in a human mind that commutes to work in a personal vehicle every day. This shifts the focus of modern sabotage from physical infrastructure to the creators themselves. Removing a single expert can be more efficient and far harder to trace than attacking the laboratory where they work. The security of a national research program now depends on the protection of its staff as much as the hardening of its facilities. Without a change in how high-level researchers are protected, these programs remain vulnerable to the quiet, systematic erasure of their most vital assets. Since 2022, at least 11 scientists tied to United States research programs have been reported missing or found dead under unusual circumstances. These individuals were cleared for access to some of the nation's most sensitive scientific information, holding high-level security credentials that take years of vetting to obtain. Their work was centered within a small network of high-security hubs, including NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the Los Alamos National Laboratory, and defense sectors within the Pentagon. The cluster of cases has drawn the attention of the House Oversight Committee, which recently launched a formal probe to investigate whether these incidents are connected. The committee has issued demands for briefings from the FBI, the Department of Defense, and the Department of Energy, seeking to cross-reference personnel data that is usually siloed within individual agencies. Investigators are now tasked with a massive forensic filtering project. They have to determine if they are looking at a series of isolated tragedies or a coordinated effort by a foreign actor to target American personnel. Finding that answer is a matter of national security. If these incidents represent a targeted operation, it suggests that physical facility security is no longer the primary hurdle for America's adversaries. To find an actual pattern, investigators must first identify the cases that have clear, established explanations. Nuno Loureiro, for example, was a highly respected MIT physicist working on fusion energy. However, his death in Massachusetts was traced back to a specific dispute with a former classmate, a tragic but isolated local crime. Caltech astrophysicist Carl Grillmeyer was also a victim of local violence, shot during a carjacking in Los Angeles. Statistics provide a baseline for these events. U.S. national laboratories and their contractors employ over 20,000 people, most of whom live in standard urban and suburban environments. Isolating these random tragedies allows investigators to focus on the cases that lack a clear motive or a physical trail, the incidents that the data cannot easily explain away. What remains is a group of vanishings that occurred under highly irregular circumstances, involving personnel with direct access to future-facing technologies. Retired Major General William Neal McCassland, a former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, went missing in New Mexico this past February. He left his home for a hike, but search teams found his prescription glasses, his cell phone, and his wallet still sitting on his table. At the Los Alamos National Laboratory, Anthony Chavez and Melissa Casillas both disappeared from their daily routines within a single year. In California, NASA JPL engineer Monica Reza vanished while on a group hike, last seen by her companions waving and smiling before disappearing into the terrain. The case of Amy Eskridge stands as a stark outlier. An anti-gravity researcher who died by an officially ruled suicide, she had spent months prior to her death issuing public warnings that she was being targeted by advanced energy weapons to disrupt her work. When mapped by their research, these individuals concentrated in 3 distinct areas: nuclear security, advanced aerospace propulsion, and biological research. These sectors, fusion energy, rocket propulsion, and gene editing, are the focal points of the technological arms race between the US, China, and Iran. The overlap creates a concerning pattern. These are not just unexplained disappearances. They are unexplained disappearances occurring exactly where the most sensitive US research is being conducted. Intelligence analysts generally argue that foreign espionage is a digital game, focused on hacking servers or bribing insiders for data, rather than the physical removal of personnel. However, data is only useful if you have the expertise to interpret it. This chart compares the time a rival nation saves by stealing encrypted files versus the time saved by extracting the lead scientist who wrote them. For specialized technologies, the human mind is often a greater bottleneck than the hardware. In sectors like fusion energy or anti-gravity, progress is driven by a very small pool of specialized experts. If those individuals are removed from the equation, a program can stall for years. Whether these cases represent a sophisticated foreign operation or a statistical anomaly, they highlight a core vulnerability in national security. Fortifying data centers and labs is only a partial solution if the experts who build those systems are left unprotected outside the gate.
Thanks for watching. Tap into 1337studio.ai.